I
Right,
eat
absolutely.
chocolate cake without guilt now.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Hello, and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
How to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, sign up for more support with meeting your needs with your weekly Universal Needs notes at theuniversalneeds.com.
And enjoy the show.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
So this is another one of those, like, this is happening a lot lately where we're considering doing an episode, or one of us comes up with the idea for an episode and the other one goes, have we done that already? And then we look back. There was so many. It was funny. I was editing like yesterday some of the episodes that we just recorded, and the number of like notes I took, I'm like, we must have an episode on that. And I'm looking through the show notes and I'm like, our episode guide, and I'm like, oh, we haven't done an episode on that either. And we haven't done an episode on that either. Okay, well, we'll add them to the list then. And this is one of those where, I mean, we've talked about this before and it's come up in an episode, but we've never really dedicated an episode to it, which, given how much of a challenge it is for people and how much of a issue it is specifically when it comes to needs and how this can like cause you issues with getting your needs met. I don't know how we've not talked about like not shitting all over yourself. I mean, and not shitting all over yourself is like the first step, but also what you can actually do about it when you notice yourself doing these things. Go on.
It's kind of hard. It's hard these days not to, because I mean, social media tells you to shit on yourself. People around you tell you to shit on yourself. Like we're in a state of shitting. It is a shitty
society.
It is a shitty society. It is a shitty state of affairs. It's like, I mean, but we're conditioned to do that because you see the things that are valued in a lot of people's lives and in culture and in all those things. And it's like, well, to get there, I should. And it's like, it doesn't only look one way. And I think like that's something maybe to dive into a little later.
Yeah. Well, I also think that like when you think about like what are we saying when we say should? Like what does should mean? And should is basically saying that there is like a right way of doing things, and this is the way that we need to do it. And I also think it's because I think you're right, social media does create a lot of this. I think society as a whole creates a lot of this. I think that what the shoulds do is they reflect expectations. So when you hear the word should, it's like, it's because somebody else has this expectation of you. It's that society has this expectation of you. It's that you have this expectation of you. And with that expectation, or with the expectation even, you okay?
Yes, sorry. I had a note and I was going to add it into the screen, like on the computer. And then I'm like, nope, I have a phone I can do that with. That makes it a lot easier. But I remembered the thing that I was talking to Joe about for the episode. So
yay.
All right. I'm jumping in a little bit because you saw it on my face.
I saw the look on your face. You looked like I saw like there's this moment of like Serena's face dropped because she was trying to compute so many different things, but it was obvious she was no longer actively engaged with the conversation. And I'm like, hello, you still there? Is everything okay? Are we all right? Do we carry on going?
It's the blinkness. It's just like whoop.
I mean, I had an expectation that you were going to carry on talking to me and you didn't. So
no.
Right, we've got new words being created. We've got fun new content being created. It's the fun and games on the Well, Should It Really Is That Simple podcast today.
Well, and it's funny, you know, with what Claire was talking about earlier, sometimes we're like, oh, did we record that episode? Of course we recorded that episode. Joe and I were on a ride yesterday and we started talking about shoulding, and I was like, oh, he's bringing it up because he heard the podcast when we recorded it, because a lot of times he's not back there now, but a lot of times he's kind of listening to the one side of the podcast. And then I was talking to Claire about it and she's like, but we haven't recorded that. I was like, that's what I thought, but I was like, why would he bring it up? And it's like, he brought it up because it's such a present thing. Like,
yeah, it's so everywhere for everyone. And I think that so the issues is that when the issue with expectation is that it removes this perception of choice. Like if something is expected of us, it no longer feels like we're choosing to do it. It feels like we're doing it because we're trying to meet that expectation. And that's where like it doesn't feel good. And it's like it's such an interesting thing because the same exact action can feel good and feel shitty depending on whether we're choosing to do it or whether we're doing it because there is an expectation outside or inside of ourselves that we should do that thing. And it doesn't really matter where the expectation is coming from. The second it becomes an expectation, an obligation, and there's no choice around it anymore, all of a sudden, like it feels heavy. There's kind of a sense of anxiety around it. It feels there's tension around it. It doesn't feel good. And you can be doing something to meet your needs, and there's all these downsides that are coming with it. So it's not really benefiting you, or it's costing you at the same time as benefiting you.
Like when you feel out of alignment with something like that, if you find yourself shitting and you're like, oh, this just doesn't feel like, you're not like, yes, this is something I want to do, something I desire to do. Like if it's out of alignment with yourself, chances are it's not right for you. Like
right,
my lifestyle isn't right for everybody. Claire's lifestyle isn't right for everybody. And being women of a certain age, wow, those words just came out of my mouth, didn't they?
I'm like, speak for yourself. I'm not of a certain age. I'm of a fabulous age, personally.
It is a fabulous age, and
there is nothing certain about it.
We get judged a lot because we should have kids. Like I should have like one place where I live with a picket fence and like a dog and a cat, and yeah, but that doesn't work for me. So no, I shouldn't. Yeah.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is that Serena is absolutely right, is that if we're doing something that is out of alignment, then it in reality, it's out of alignment because it's out of alignment with our needs. That's what out of alignment means. It's like we're doing something that we feel like we're supposed to do, but it doesn't actually align with where our needs are at that point in time. So it's like, oh, we're exercising because we think we should, but we've got an injury. So it doesn't align with our foundation function need, or because we've been sick, so it doesn't align with our foundation function need. Interestingly enough, you can do something that is in alignment, but if you're doing it because you think you should, it will still not feel good. So you can do something that actually is in alignment with your needs. It is what you want. It is what you, it feels like it's the right thing to do for you. But the second you put that should on it, the second there's an expectation, whether it's like an internal expectation or whether it's an external expectation, all of a sudden that the expectation, it takes that choice out of it. And the second you take that choice out of it, you're compromising your personal power need. So you can be doing the same thing. And if you're saying, okay, I'm going to choose to do it, I get the benefit of the thing that's meeting my need, and I get a benefit to my personal power need. Or you can say, I have to do this thing because it's expected of me, because I should do the thing. And all of a sudden, well, yeah, you might get the benefit to your need, but you get a hit to your personal power need. So it's coming at a compromise the second you put that word should on it. And also it tends to create this feeling of pressure, like as in addition to this, like removing that perception of choice, there's this anxiety around it. There's a pressure because, again, when you have an expectation, the expectation comes with it a pressure to hit that expectation. So the second that you have that expectation that, I mean, and I don't think necessarily people would think about them as expectations, but the second you put the word should on it, there's a hidden expectation in there. The second there's a hidden expectation in there, there's this pressure for you to hit that expectation, whether that pressure is internal or external. And once you have pressure around meeting needs, again, it's going to strip that. It's not going to feel as good. You're not going to get the same benefit of it, or it may be compromising other needs, because again, once you have that pressure, you're also compromising your personal power need, because the pressure is the thing that is pushing you to do something which no longer has you feeling, okay, now it's completely my choice. Right? I'm like Serena's like looking at me and I'm like, okay, I'm just checking we're both following.
Yes, we were both following. Sometimes Claire goes through content and I'm just like, this is good stuff. And I catch myself like almost being a viewer. So like, if you catch me doing that sometimes, it's not because I'm not here. It's because I'm so here that I'm like, tell me more, yes. Claire.
I think there's something awesome. Like this sometimes happens to me when I'm editing as well, where I forget what I'm looking for in the edit. And so I'm like missing. I'm like, yeah, this is good stuff. And I'm like, before I know it, I've listened to 30 minutes of an episode. I'm like, oh shit, I completely wasn't focusing on the thing I was supposed to be focusing on, which is like when I go through editing, oftentimes I'm looking for the intro pieces that go at the very beginning of our podcast. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure there were a bunch in there. Okay, I got to go re-listen to it again. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like, oh, I wish I could. Yeah. So I feel you. I understand that. I understand how that could be. So anyway, so one of the ways that this kind of affects our needs or interacts with our needs is that our unmet needs can amplify the feeling of should. And the reason for this is that the less that they are met, the more likely we are to feel compelled to do something we should do. Because subconsciously, we believe that doing the thing that we should do will lead to our needs being better met. Like, whether that's because people will like us more, whether it's because it's going to like through us achieving more, whether there's like a logical connection to it, which is like, well, I must exercise because if I exercise, I'm going to feel better in my body. So it's better to my foundation function need. Or if I eat this certain food that's really, that is really good for me, that's like, it's not to say that those things aren't going to meet our needs. But what happens is the unmet needs amplify this pressure around it. So the more unmet your needs are, the more pressure you're likely to feel from the word should, no matter where it comes from. So it's like, oh God, if I feel like I'm at the bottom of the hole and I feel like I should do something, that should is going to weigh far heavier on me than if I'm like, my needs are well met and I hear a should. And it's almost like, once your needs are well met and you understand the should thing. I mean, it's funny because like it's such a thing. We've understood this so well for so long now. Like you'll notice, I think it might have been the last episode or the episode before, I used the word should and Serena's like, oh, you use the S word, because we don't use that word. That is not part of our vocabulary anymore.
Well, actually, this came about because it slipped out, because I'm human, and I was talking one night and I shoulded Joe, and somebody that I'm friends with that's gone through the program, they're like, you emphasize the should. And I was like, oh yeah, thank you. And I immediately switched it to what I actually like. That's what Joe and I were talking about, was the replacement.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. So it's like, this is why, like, if your needs are well met, you know the impact of this word. Well, I mean, if you know this, you're going to know the impact of this word anyway. So irrespective of that, we don't really use the word. But also, if the word gets used on us and our needs are well met, like, watch that thing slide off us like Teflon. Like, I mean, literally, if someone says you should do that, really? Says who?
You can get me to do a lot of things. That's not the phrase to get me to do it. Like,
well, and it's so interesting because so often it is the phrase that does pressure people into it because they don't understand and they don't realize this. This is how a lot of people get manipulated. It's like, well, you should do this, or that you really should do that, or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you say it to us and it's like ping, like it's like it ricochets off of our little needs shield. And it's like, oh, I think you dropped a should over there. Like, it's like, that's, I don't know what it is, but it's nothing to do with me. Usually
it's over there by my non-existent fucks.
Right, exactly. And it's like, oh, look, you should it all over the floor. It's certainly not all over me because I don't deal with that shit. And so this is the thing. So it's like the better your needs are met. I mean, as I said, knowing about this means that you're going to have a more of an awareness anyway. But having the awareness without having your needs met, or having an awareness without having your needs well met, means it still could penetrate somewhat. It's still gonna land. Like logically, mentally, you might go, oh, I'm not supposed to, like, should's not a helpful word, so I probably should change that around. And if your unmet needs are like talking to you, they're like, oh, sorry, did I hear something? Someone said the S word. Like, oh, that's us, right? Yeah, we should do that, right? So it's like, if your unmet needs are present, they're going to be listening for that, and they might still start pulling the strings underneath the surface.
They're like whispering, should.
Exactly. So you may still get affected by it, even if you mentally and logically know it's not very helpful. The better your needs are met, as I said, like, it's like, oh, it just bounces off you. Like, oh, what was that? Don't know what it was, but I don't want anything to do with it. And so the better your needs are met, the more like agency you have, the more ability you have to kind of go, I don't know what expectation you're setting on me by doing that, but that has nothing to, it's like that your expectations of me are none of my business, sort of thing. And that's more likely what's going to come out.
Something that just came to me. God, it came and left, and then it came back, and now it left again. Is if somebody says you should do something, there's times when people are like, oh, you should do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, actually, I'd kind of like to do X, Y, Z. Like, that sounds good. You need to rephrase it in your mind, and you need to rephrase it. If somebody has verbally said it to you, rephrasing it to them, being like, and you don't even have to address the should, because sometimes that's just a bridge we don't want to cross, but being like, actually, you know what? That would feel really good to go for a walk, or I'd really like to talk to this person about this thing. Like, because then it reframes it in your mind. You're actually meeting your needs in it by acknowledging, like, yeah, that's something I would want to do. Like,
and more importantly, you're taking your personal power back in that conversation. So you are going to do the thing that meets your needs, and also meet your personal power need in the context of that, rather than doing that thing we were talking about previously, where it's like, well, I'm going to do the thing that meets my needs, but at the cost of my personal power need. And like, we're gonna get into this in a future episode. I've been like, this has been an episode that's been in the back of my mind for ages, and I don't even know if it's in the list of episodes we have to record, about not allowing anybody else's behavior to cause you to either submit or to rebel, to do what's right for you anyway. And there's an element of that in this. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, because that really is an episode all of itself. I mean, a lot of people talk about it in the context of authority, but I think that sometimes we forget that actually it's in the context of anybody. So we want to kind of do that justice elsewhere. So just because somebody else has shoulded it doesn't mean to say you want to be like, well, I'm not going to do that because you shoulded it on me, sort of thing, because that's not good for you, because it's the thing that's actually going to support you. And that's why the thing that Serena suggested is helpful here, because you can go, okay, I'm going to neutralize the should, but I'm going to take the benefit. Or I'm going to neutralize the should, and I'm going to take the benefit, which is like, okay, I'm taking the thing away that's going to cause any kind of ickiness, and I'm going to take on board the thing that actually is going to be supportive to me. Now, one of the reasons that also this can kind of be a problematic phrase is because there's an inherent superiority in the phrase should, because what you're basically saying is you should do this because it is better than the alternative. And that better is that inherent superiority, versus I want to do this because I want the outcome. And so if you've been listening for a while now, if you've certainly gone through the program, you know, any kind of superiority is going to be really shitty to anybody's needs. Any kind of, whether that is you positioning yourself as superior, somebody else is positioning themselves as superior, you look at different things and seeing them as superior. Now, there's a difference between using your discernment to figure out which is better for where I'm at right now versus this is the better thing overall. Because I think there's a subtle difference there. And I mean, nuance. Yes, we want to be able to discern, is this, we want to be able to use our judgment and go, okay, I've got all these different options right now. Which is the better option for me at the moment? Versus this is the better thing to do. And therefore there's an expectation and I have to do that thing. And I think that when we start to understand that difference, it's about recognizing that we can evaluate things and figure out which is more, like Serena was saying before, more in alignment with where we are right now, with where our needs are at right now, versus saying that there is a better way of doing things. And therefore, and part of the challenge with that is that if this is the better way of doing things, there's a temptation to be like, oh, well, I will get my value need better met if I do the better thing, because that makes me the better person. And that's where we need to be mindful, because actually your value need, you're worthy simply because you exist. You're not worthy because you made this choice over that choice necessarily. And that's one of the downsides that we have is like, well, if there's this, I can't think of, there's a term for it where it's like, oh, well, I'm the better person because I do exercise all the time, or I'm a better person because I eat healthy all the time. And actually that's not the thing that actually denotes your value. Your value is as a human being. And actually there are times
that is such a deep rabbit hole.
Yeah. And that's why I'm kind of like skirting around the edges of it. Yeah. And this is the thing. And this is why it's so important for us to be able to go, okay, rather than this is the healthy choice and this is the unhealthy choice, actually, I mean, it's one of the things that's so amazing about the universal needs model is that you can't be perfect in it. Because this trying to be perfect in everything creates a lack of balance in our lives. And if our lives are out of balance, then in actual fact, they're not the most supportive life that we could be living. And so, yes, maybe 4 times out of 5, eating a meal that's got like a balanced nutrition in terms of it's got some like complex carbohydrates, it's got some fruits and vegetables, it's got some protein and all those sort of things. Yeah, 4 times out of 5, that's going to be the better choice for you for where you're at. And then the 5th time out of 5, I mean, maybe it's out of 15 or out of 50, a piece of chocolate cake is going to be the thing that's right for you to eat, because that's the thing that's going to feel good at that point in time, and it creates that balance.
I think right there is the sell for the program. Like, we teach you how to feel good about eating the piece of chocolate cake, but it puts it in this perspective that you don't want to eat it all the time just because you know your needs. Like, I eat
absolutely
chocolate cake without guilt now.
Yeah.
What the fuck? And I'm not eating like, I mean, like, it just, yeah, that's also probably a rabbit hole we should stay away from. But I just thought, I'm like, wow, what a selling point there.
Right?
Eat the cake.
Well,
it almost have your cake and eat it too. Oh. But
yeah,
I mean,
no, we don't want to necessarily create an association with that, given where it came from. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, no, it's like that we went. So my brain went in a completely different direction for a second now, and I'm trying to rein it back in. So yes, and that's the thing is that it's important for us to. So this is why there aren't these binary better worse in every situation. In fact, there aren't better worse in really any situation. I mean, there's a few kind of universals. And still, there's often nuance and gray area with those as well. And that's the reason that when we say should is looking at this kind of universal expectation or this universal judgment over which is the better option. And the truth of the matter is there are times where I'm like, bullshit. Like, actually, no. And it's like, sometimes the thing that we wouldn't necessarily do is absolutely the thing that's most in alignment with us and our needs. And we're not hurting anybody else or ourselves in the process. So whose fucking business is it but ours? And that's a different place to come to from these places, sorts of like from life in general. Like, when your needs are better met, you can get to that point where you can feel the discernment of what's in alignment and what isn't, without derailing one way or the other and going, I have to do this or I have to not do that because of what anybody or everybody else thinks.
And people love to shit all over other people. Like,
yeah,
they really
That's
do.
why it's good to get that should Teflon that we have, where it's like, oh, watch it slide off and slither across the floor and like go sinking into the earth somewhere. Like, nope.
And we have a little bit of bite as we're talking about this with how we react to people. That is our internal monologue. Like, because we know interconnectedness. And if you don't know what we mean by interconnectedness, check out the 2 episodes ago, 3 episodes. We'll put it in the show notes. Because our needs are well met, we're not coming off to people like that. We're not like, oh, fuck your should. I mean, sometimes we are, or at least I am. And it's like, a lot of times just, okay.
Yeah.
And all that is acknowledging I've
heard what you've said. Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Okay does a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay is a really good neutralizer. Because there's no
Well, it is, unless you're in close relationship with Claire. If you get an okay, you're like, oh fuck. Okay is
shit's
like
going
fine.
down.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like the reason for that is like if I'm in a space where I'm dealing with some stuff and somebody contacts me, I want to acknowledge what they're saying, but I don't have anything more to give at that point in time. That's normally what that okay means. It's like I'm acknowledging what's going on. I'm not going to be inauthentic about where I'm at right now. So all you're getting is the okay. I mean, if you get an okay kiss, then that's like I love you, and I'm like I'm still here, but I'm like I'm in the shit right now.
I just can't.
Getting okay without a kiss, it's like I probably still love you, but I'm feeling some stuff about what's going on between the two of us right now. Like all of that, but I still want to acknowledge you because you're still a human being and you're still someone who means something to me. Like if you didn't care, I would be like, I'm not going to respond at all. So it's like, and it's interesting because even with this, there's a feeling of like, oh, in that situation, it could be like, oh, I should respond. I'm not responding because I should respond. I'm responding because I want to. And I'm responding authentically with what feels in alignment with me at the moment that I'm responding. And other people would take that as like, oh, well, you should do this instead, or you should put a smiley face, or you should put a full sentence, or you should do this. I'm like, I should do what feels right for me. That's what I'm going to do. And it's like, I don't even put the should in there. Like I'm going to do what feels right for me and what feels in alignment from the place of being self first and interconnectedness. So like, I'm not going to be like, well, fuck the world. I'm going to do whatever feels right for me, to hell with everybody else. But I'm going to do it in the way that's right for me with not negatively impacting somebody else and their needs.
And it's what's right for cultivating the relationships you want to be in as well.
Right. Yeah.
Because when like, I know what okay means. I know what the different levels of okay means. And it's like, okay, like that is a sentence of communication to me.
Right.
Like,
absolutely. Like, and we have our own little language that goes back and forth between us because of all the time we spent getting to know each other over the years. So I think that the other thing that, anything else on that before I move on? Nope. One of the other challenges with the word should is that should often leads to a feeling of guilt or shame. So a lot of the time it's like, because if I don't do what I should do, i.e. if I don't do what is expected of me, I feel guilty or shameful about it. Now, this is a rabbit hole in and of itself that I am going to tiptoe very gently and carefully around. If you don't understand what the difference between guilt and shame is, and you specifically don't understand why guilt is beneficial and why shame is destructive, go and listen to our guilt and shame series, because a lot of people think, oh, guilt and shame, there's no benefit to either of them. No, guilt's a handy little tool. It's very valuable. But the problem is a lot of time we confuse guilt and shame, and we call it guilt when we're actually feeling shame, which is the reason it feels unhelpful in all situations. This is really important to understand, because it's like when you understand that there is an expectation with inherent in should, and if I'm not doing the thing that I am expected to do, that I'm going to feel guilty about it. That's one way it shows up. Well, also, if I do the thing that I quote unquote should do, but it doesn't feel right to me, I might feel guilt or shame about that. So this can work in both directions when it comes to word should. As I said, I'm not going to go down this particular rabbit hole because we could do an episode entirely just on that. And we got a lot we want to cover today. So I think that it's important to recognize that if you notice guilt and shame coming up around that is, it makes sense because we're responding to that expectation. And it's how we're responding to that expectation is the expectation that's causing that feeling inside of us. And that's another reason why there's no place for shoulds in our lives. And there's lots of other phrasing that we can use. And we're going to get to how we can start to shift that in a little bit. That's going to make a difference. We've talked in the past about like get to, want to, could do, like, well, there's lots of choose to, there's lots of different phrases we can use. And sometimes we can use a little bit of help figuring out how to make those switches. And also when a switch is appropriate versus when actually the entire sentence is completely bullshit. And we just need to be able to identify that it's bullshit. So before we get into that, as I said, one of the issues with the word should is that the subtext, like what isn't being said while being said, what isn't being explicitly said, is that we should do something because it is the quote unquote right thing to do. And the question we want to ask ourselves is like, how do we really figure out what is really right for us in this situation? Like, how do we figure out if it is coming from internal desire because we want to do something, or external influence or pressure, or internal pressure? Because just because it's coming from inside of us doesn't mean to say it's necessarily coming from desire. Sometimes it could be internally. I mean, a lot of the time, having worked with clients all over the world for many, many years now, internal pressure is often greater than external pressure in certain situations. So, and the thing is that a lot of our social conditioning becomes internalized shoulds. So what happens is we get conditioned and indoctrinated into certain ways of thinking as we go through life. And that then becomes this internal pressure. I mean, technically it's come from the outside to begin with. I mean, most pressure has come from the outside in some way, shape or form. But what ends up happening is that we then take that on and then we push ourselves to conform, and we don't even realize it's a conforming thing. We just go, this is what I have to do. Like, this is how life works. And therefore I have to do this thing. And therefore I'm going, and it's like, whoa, like, we need to start to figure out how to collapse these thought processes, because we do ourselves so much damage. Like the amount of internal damage that we're doing to ourselves by the amount of stress and anxiety we are causing ourselves, by what we're doing to our nervous systems, by being under that constant state of stress and anxiety. Physically is not good. Emotionally is not good. Mentally is not good. Energetically is not good. Like it affects us in every single possible way. And it's important to understand that what is right for some people isn't right for others. But we tend to have these kind of universal social norms applied to all of us, no matter who we are, no matter what our circumstance. And this can do a lot of harm. It can cause people to compromise and sacrifice their needs to try to do things the way they are quote unquote supposed to be done. The other thing to remember is that what is right for you isn't necessarily right for you at all times, in all situations, in all circumstances. So again, putting those universal expectations on ourselves, even if it's like not a universal from a societal level, this happens. I see this so often with clients, where clients will say, oh, I should do this because it's what they've always done. Just because it's what they've always done, they assume it's what they have to continue to do. And I mean, I had a conversation with a client recently where they were talking about the fact that they had, and this is a triggering subject, but they'd had an injury and they'd put a bit of weight on, and they were a woman within a certain age bracket, and they're like, oh, I need to get back to how I was. And I'm like, let's check in. And we're going through hormonal changes, which means that the size and shape our bodies were maybe 10 or 15 years ago might not be the size or shape that's actually right for us right now. So we might need to rediscover that. And it's like, and this is not about weight being like a value thing. It's not about looking a certain way. This was somebody like they wanted to feel comfortable in their body. They wanted to be able to enjoy doing the things that they were doing, and this has been getting in the way of that. So like we have to, when it's a triggering subject like that, we have to kind of look at it from all those angles and make sure that we're doing something that's in alignment. But even just something that is something we've done in the past, or something we've had, or like something we've been able to do in the past, might not be in alignment with what we want to do, what we're able to do, what we can do right now. Same is true in there's lots of different ways that this applies. And it's like, just because this is something that we've always done, like say you're somebody who you went to the gym every single day and now you have a knee injury, and actually it doesn't support you to go to the gym every day because you've had some sort of issue, and now that's something you need to get resolved. Say you're somebody, great example with me personally is that I've gone through phases in my life where I've had allergies to different foods. Just because I've been able to eat something for a long time doesn't mean to say I'm automatically going to be able to keep eating it right now. Like, and sometimes something I haven't been able to eat, now I can eat. So it's like, and even when we kind of get outside of those sorts of things, just because we used to go to, I mean, Serena and I both used to go to an office every single day, and at one point I would have said that was right for me and it was what I wanted to do. Now you couldn't pay me enough to go and do that. Like, it's not in alignment with where I'm at right now and what I want for my current circumstances.
I also think a lot of people, when they're shitting on other people, are doing so in a way that is meeting the needs of the people they're saying you like. They're trying to get needs met, or they're trying to project you meeting needs for somebody else because they don't realize that that's something that should be done on their own. The other person, like,
okay, I didn't understand what you just said, so I'm not sure if anyone listening is going to be able to understand what you just said. Like, use two, like, say it was me and you, use us as an example. So if you were you were saying that I should do something, what are you trying to explain?
If it's me and you and we don't know about needs, like, yes, if I'm saying you should do something, like, oh, you should be cooking for your roommate. Like, okay, it's like you should be meeting the needs of other people, when, like, I think that's a lot of should surrounds meeting the needs of other people, and kind of where we were in, I think, the last episode, like, not meeting somebody's needs that are their responsibility. It's like, doesn't mean you could do it, but should you?
And I think there's a couple of things I would add to what Serena's just said. Yes, and I think that a lot of the time when people should on other people, it's a projection of themselves. It's a projection of what they think they should be doing. So it's like, I'm going to tell you, you should do something because if you're doing it, it might make me feel better about doing it myself. Or if, like, I feel like it's something that I should be doing and I'm not really paying any attention to whether it works for you or not. Or I've been conditioned to believe that we should do things for other people, and therefore I'm going to push that I'm going to project that onto you and say that you should do things for other people. Oh, look, I'm one of the other people that you should do things for. So it's like that. So that can often show up. The other thing is that they can do shoulds because, and it's kind of like a dovetail into that last example I just gave, is that they can should on other people to try and get their own needs met. So it's like I say to Serena, oh, well, you should be posting on social media every single day because, like, at our business social media, like, I need to do that to get my needs met. I mean, that's a bad example because, like, we have a business relationship, but it's like, the example about if Serena and I were roommates, I'm like, well, you should really be cooking for your roommate every day. Oh, wait, I'm your roommate. Oh, that means you're cooking for me every day. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not quite as obvious as that. It's not quite as explicit as that. But a lot of the time people will say to someone, oh, you should really do this, because the doing this is the thing that will meet the need. So for example, it may be that, say you've got two colleagues who are working at the same level, and they're both working on a project, and one says to the other, oh, you should really be more humble about the work that you're doing. Like, you should really be more humble, like not just about work, but like they say, you should really be more humble, not talk about everything that you're doing to the extent that you are. Well, they might be doing that so that when the other person is around, they can say to the boss, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. And if the other person isn't saying all the things that they've done, then they might be getting more of the acknowledgement. They might get more of the perceived value. They might get a bonus or a raise or something. So you see what I mean? Like, where it's like they might be saying to somebody else, well, you should do this, because if they do that, it's likely that the other person is going to have their needs better met in the situation. And the truth of the matter is, we don't even often realize where these internalized expectations are coming from. Like, we need to figure out, and the truth of the matter is, we don't need to figure out, we actually don't need to figure out where they've come from. What we need to do is shift them in order to ensure that they are not getting in the way of us having our needs met or supporting us in getting our needs met. So how do we figure out, like, what the choice is, like, and which choice is going to be the one that best meets our needs in a self-first way, i.e. how do we meet our personal power need in this? So, like, for example, like, a lot of the time people will say, oh, you really shouldn't nap during the day. Okay, well, if you are in England, the US, there's various places where, like, the perception is you shouldn't nap during the day. Like, if you're napping during the day, you're lazy, for example. If you are in Italy or Spain, there are lots of areas around the world where napping is not just okay, it's expected. Like, it's like, well, you should really be taking a nap in the afternoon, because that's when it's the peak of the sun, and that will then allow you to do more after that. And in actual fact, looking at it from a scientific standpoint, I believe that the current research says that napping actually makes you more productive. So it actually helps you to do more of the things than you would be able to by not napping. But the thing is, we want to be in choice around this. We want to be doing the thing that actually feels like it is meeting our needs best, and we are choosing to do that. So, like, how do we figure out what the choice is? And it's really difficult sometimes to figure out the choice when we're surrounded by all of these expectations. This is why we need to get really closely connected in with our needs and figure out, like, what needs are met, what needs are unmet, what are the needs that are the highest priority right now because they need a little bit of extra love, and which needs are, okay, these are taken care of right now. So, for example, if I'm in a situation where my foundation function need is really well met, like, I don't feel tired at this point in time, and actually it would support me more to do this piece of work than it would be to take a nap, then that's the choice I'm going to make. If, however, I'm in a situation where I'm exhausted and I do have a piece of work to do, but I'm not going to do it particularly well with my current state of exhaustion, actually taking a nap might be the better option. So this is where we want to kind of get down to the need level and be able to look at it at that level and figure out, okay, which option is going to be the most in alignment with where my needs are at right now, and that's going to support meeting my needs in a way that is self-first and being mindful of interconnectedness. So I saw you take a note. Do you want to jump in here, or like, I'm like, okay, just checking. So one of the things you want to do is you want to see if you can reword, like Serena was talking about earlier, like reword the should if you can. So if this is coming from yourself, if the should is something you are saying to yourself, you want to ask, like, what do you want to do in this situation? You could ask yourself, what would meet your needs best in this situation? You could ask yourself what you could do in this situation. You could ask yourself what you have the capacity to do in this situation. You could ask yourself what you want to create in this situation. If you haven't gone and listened to the empowerment ecosystem in the Shapes series, highly recommend going and listening to that, because it will give you context to that create. It's like, there's a specific, when we say create, there's a very specific thing that we're talking about, not just what am I crafting today. Like although that could actually be a thing in our worlds as well. But you want to go and look at it in that context. What do I want to create today? If it's with others, as in you're using the word should with other people, firstly, don't assume that your perspective is welcome, appropriate, or relevant. Like, that's the first thing. Like, I don't necessarily assume that people want my insights. Now, the truth of the matter is, I've probably got more insights than most people because I'm a human behavior specialist who's been doing this work for well over a decade now. But even then, I don't assume that people want it, that it's relevant or appropriate in any given situation. Like, you can ask if they would like you to share your perspective, and accept no if that's the response. Like, if someone's happy doing what they're doing as they're doing it, leave them the fuck alone. Like, like, don't bother them with your internalized expectations of yourself or them. The other thing is, don't assume knowledge. I don't assume you know what's going on with them, what's going on with the situation, what's going on with the state of their needs. If you're going to do this, approach it with curiosity. Ask questions, and not questions that assume I mean, if you haven't listened to our episode on the dark side of questions, give this a listen before you want to kind of go down this route. But like, don't say to, like, I mean, technically, you're not going to do it that way, are you? Is a question. Like, that's not a helpful question. Questions that are curious and are about understanding, like trying to find out and understand the situation. If you are wanting to offer suggestions, offer options, not directives. It's not like you should do this. Like I could see some options here. You could do this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. Let them make the decision that feels right for them, because that's going to engage their personal power need.
Sometimes if they're willing to, like, if they want to have the conversation about it, saying this has worked for me in the past, or I see there's some things that I have some thoughts about this. Would you like to hear them? Because sometimes it's not always like the coulds. It's like, you know, I tried this once and it blew up in my face, or I did this once and it was very successful. So giving the options from your own personal experiences, but not making it about yourself. Like,
well, and in the context of that, saying, like, when I did this was my experience of it. That's not to say it's going to be your experience. So you leave room for the possibility that just because that's been your experience, it doesn't mean to say it's going to be their experience. So you can offer that, and make sure that you're qualifying that in a way where you're not saying, therefore you should do it this way. Because like, otherwise it could be seen that you're providing evidence of why they like, there's even more reason and more pressure for them to do it the way that you believe they should.
That's really important too, because if they try it and you said it failed and they shouldn't do it and they did it anyway and it was successful, that could come back as a like, well, look, it worked. You tried to make me not do it. And vice versa. If your experience was good and they take the should and apply it, and then come back and be like, that was the worst thing I ever could have done. Like, you want to take the responsibility away from yourself, and it not so that you're like abdicating responsibility, but so that the responsibility is on them to make the choice that serves them.
Well, and that's where the power sits. Like, it's not just like we've talked about it, with great power comes great responsibility, but the opposite is true. With great responsibility comes great power. So like, if you want, like, where you have responsibility, i.e. where you are making the choices, you have the power to affect change, and you want them to have the power to affect change in their life. Like, silly example of this is like with the flow arts that Serena and I do. So Serena is not somebody for whom poi really works. Like, it's not your favorite flow art, is it? Like, and like, Joe enjoys doing it. It's not your thing. If I'd gone to Serena and said, hey, and now Serena and I are very similar in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to performance, especially when it comes to dance, especially when it comes to, there are distinctions, there are differences, there are things that definitely speak more to me than Serena, and vice versa. But if I'd gone to Serena and gone, well, what flow art do you think I should try? And she was like, I think you should try fans, because I tried poi and it really didn't work for me. I love poi. Like, there's something about the flow of it that I get. Now, I enjoy fans as well. It's not to say that I don't. And I would miss out on something if Serena had said to me, well, you should, you shouldn't try poi, or you should try fans, because poi didn't work for me. I don't think it would work for you either. Rather than saying, well, try them both and see which you enjoy best, because that's really where it comes down to. Like, when I first started doing like aerial arts, I really desperately wanted to do aerial silks. I've always loved the idea of silks, and because I think there's a sort of similarity in the sense between poi and the silk. So if you don't know what poi is where you spin you have these kind of balls normally on the end of some kind of length. So it could be material, it could be a chain, it could be string. And what you do is you spin them in different directions, and it creates these beautiful, beautiful shapes.
Visual
I suppose
art
is the best way. Yes, visual arts, exactly. And the same thing with aerial silks is that you've got silks that lay down, that drop down, and then you climb up them, and then you like wind yourself up, and then you unwind. So there's a kind of similarity, I think, between like the effect you get with the two. And I think I've talked about this before, like this is where we get into the British term, where I did my first aerial silks class and I hung there like a conker. And if you don't know what a conker is, it's a part of a kid's game from the fall or autumn time in the UK, where you have something that literally hangs on a string and you just hold it there and it hangs. And it's like, because I didn't have the upper body strength to be able to do what I wanted to do with that. So I ended up shifting to Lyra, and that was the thing. But again, like, I'm not going to say to somebody, you shouldn't do silks, because that was just my experience. Like, it's important to like encourage people to make the decision that feels best for them, even if it's not the one that you would choose, or the one that's right for yourself, or the one that's best for where you're at right now. Maybe it's never been best for you. There's a reason that all these options exist in the world, because it was right for somebody at some time. Like, who's to say which people it's right for and which people it's not? So we just had a little bit of a pause in recording, because this is one of the episodes, very rarely does this happen, that we planned out the whole episode, and we're like coming up to the hour, and we're only halfway through what we had in terms of our content. So Serena's like, I think that we should make this a second episode. And I'm like, actually, I think it's a really good idea, because we don't want people to get overwhelmed. So what we're going to do is we're going to save the how to start shifting your shoulds to the next episode. But I think that the thing that I want to finish up on with this episode is, like, obviously on this episode, we focus on like, why is shoulding all over yourself such an issue? Or why is shoulding anywhere such an issue? And so I think that one of the things that is just really helpful as a first start is to use the approaches that we've talked about in our language episodes, where we've talked about like shifting the word but. We've talked about the C word. We'll put the links to those in the show notes, where it's important when it comes to this, if this is a phrase that you are used to saying on the regular, you're not going to shift it overnight. You're not going to go from like, I've been shooting on myself morning, noon and night for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, to then be like, I am never saying that word again. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the episode. We know about this, and Serena still uses it at times. I still use it at times. Like, it's not like it's a one and done. We know about this and we're shifting it. And one of the keys, and we're going to get into how to do this a little bit more in the next episode, is to find ways to start shifting that language. So come up with alternatives for things that you can use, so that before you end up in the situation, because what tends to happen is when we're starting to shift our language and stop saying something, because normally it's stop saying something more than start saying something, because the stuff that we're wanting to stop is often more impactful than the stuff we're wanting to start. So we want to get rid of the stuff that we want to stop. What tends to happen is we don't think about what we want to change it to ahead of time. And then we end up where we're mid-sentence and we're trying not to use the word, and our mind is blank and we can't think of any other option. And it's like, oh shit. Like, I know I don't want to use this word, but I don't know what word to use. Like, and
then you almost spit it out. It's like, you should.
Yeah.
Should.
Yeah. Exactly. And so the key thing is to come up with some alternatives ahead of time. And I said, we'll get in the next episode, we'll get into some, how you can start to, what some of those are and how to start to shift things. The second thing is to recognize that, when you first start doing this, when you first start making the shift, chances are you're going to have the shift after you've said it. You're going to say it and go, oh shit, that was that word that's not helpful to say. And so it's about catching it afterwards and being, and with it, if it's yourself, being like, oh, sorry, that was not helpful for me. Instead, what I wanted to say was this. And if it was somebody else, like, actually, sorry, I realized that sounds like I have an expectation of you and that's not helpful. Here's something you could do. So here are some ideas of some options of things you could do. And then what you're probably going to do is you're probably going to start to make that shift midway through it. So you'll be like, sherbet. Like you'll be like midway through the sentence. I'm not saying sherbet's what you'll come out with, but you'll be like midway through it, and your brain will click in and be like, oh, hold on. And it'll be like, and that's the point where you can be like, not necessarily say sherbet.
It would be shit.
I mean, well, shit. And it's like, at that point, it's like, okay, like, and it's okay to catch yourself, like with, like, even if you're with other people, be like, hold on, no, let me figure out. I want to reword that because that's not helpful. Okay, this is something you could do. Here's an idea, like here's a suggestion for you. So it's like there's like it's okay to catch yourself midway through and change tack. Like you can, it's okay to be like to say, okay, I'm making a mistake and I'm learning and I'm changing the mistake midway through. And then you're probably going to start to shift it right beforehand. And the first time you catch yourself and make the change beforehand, there's going to be this little piece of you inside that's going to be like, yes, look at me, go me, I did it, yay.
And to go back on the last one really quickly, like I haven't met many people. I mean, I can imagine the situation, and the majority of people, if you stop yourself mid should and correct yourself, they're not going to be like pissy about, well, tell me what I should do, don't tell me what I could do. Like it might feel a little bit awkward, but it's, you know, with that awkwardness, I believe would come appreciation from the other person, maybe some learning and education, like, oh I can do that, or that's a thing.
Like yeah, right, like what's the issue with the word, like, and there might be like that kind of like looking at you with a little bit of weirdness, being like, what's the issue with should? Why are you like, and I'd be like, I got a great podcast episode for you to listen to. Like, here you go. So it's like, it's about and giving yourself grace with this. So it's not like, okay, what we don't want to do is should all over ourselves about our shoulding. So we don't want to be like, oh, I should do this. Oh shit, I shouldn't say should. Like we're shoulding all over the shoulds. Like, I mean, it's not helpful. We're just amplifying our shoulding at that point. Being like, it's okay. Like give yourself grace in this to be like, okay, I'm learning how to do this differently. It's okay for me to make mistakes along the way. Let me figure out how to address the mistake and let's move on. And the more grace you give yourself in this, the more you're actually adopting the very principles that we're talking about. Because should doesn't leave a lot of room for grace. Should is like expectation, it's pressure, and there's very little grace in that. And the more grace you give yourself as you're learning about this, the more you're actually starting to unravel the conditioning that underpins using the word should. And so it's okay to be like, oh shit, fucked up. Whoopsie, had an oops moment. Okay. And I'm learning, like if you were teaching a little kid how to do something for the very first time and they made a mistake or they didn't get it quite right the first time, anybody who knows anything about human behavior, child development, being a decent fucking human being in any way, shape or form is not going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why would you do that? You shouldn't do that. Like, that's not what I told you to do. Like, you're not going to do that. And it's so important to approach yourself as that small child in this situation, because this is a new part of you. This is a part of you that's learning something new for the first time. We want to have compassion. We want to encourage where we're noticing that progress is happening. And we want to give grace and understanding and support where mistakes happen, because that's what enables us to move quicker in that direction. So I just wanted to finish off this episode by saying we are going to get to more of the shifting in the second episode. But I wanted to finish up by saying, okay, we want to make sure that we are approaching this with a mindfulness of how to support us and therefore to support our needs and not compromise our needs as we're making these changes. Anything you want to add before we finish up?
Nope, I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. We'll be back next time with an episode about how to shift your shoulds. Between now and then, remember, stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard
and would like to see some of Serena's awesome facial expressions,
check out the video podcast on YouTube.
And remember, shitting on yourself or anyone else is never going to be supportive of needs.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.